My name is Keehan, and we're going to talk about bicycling just for a little bit. I was going to start with a little story. I'm going to hit the next one. My story in San Diego starts about 20 years ago. I moved here from Chicago. And I moved here with my two children, who were 5 and 7 at the time. We bought a house in a good suburban area. We picked the place so that we could walk and bike to school and to the parks and all of that stuff. So mostly we did walk to elementary school. Sometimes we rode our bikes. This is what I always imagined it, and in my memory, this is what it's like. In my head, my children are now 26 and 24, so it's been a while. And this is what I remember from when I was a kid, too. That notice there's no cars in this picture. Next slide, please. This is kind of what it was really like on some days. That the cars are everywhere. And to illustrate this, I remember vividly the year my oldest daughter was in 4th grade. And we would walk to school every day, me and the two girls, and every day we would walk by the same house. And the same mom with her same kids, as we were walking to school, would put her kids in her Suburban and drive them to the school that we were walking to. And then every day on my way home, I would walk past the house and she would be pulling back in her driveway and going on with her day, and I would be walking past and going on with my day. And it made me think a lot about, you know, I'm sure she thought I was crazy. I certainly thought she was crazy. We didn't really have a chance to have that conversation about, hey, you're crazy. But it made me think a lot about the choices that we make as parents, as children, what we're teaching our kids about how we get around. And as my children got older, I let them walk and bike to school on their own. And that, again, in my neighborhood was very, people thought I was crazy for doing that, because aren't you worried about your children's safety? Yes. Sometimes we were worried about their safety, but the idea was that we needed to change our neighborhoods to make it safer so that I didn't have to worry about the safety of my kids or other people's kids. We need to build communities that we can allow kids to walk and bike again to school, and that's the future that I want to build, and that's what I've been working toward for a long time, for almost 20 years now in San Diego. Next one. The future is coming. I don't have to tell you guys this, right? But our region is going to grow by about 1.3 million people from 2010 to 2050. That's a 40% increase in the population. We have to figure out better ways to get around because we're just not going to be able to use the same model that we've always used. We also have to create communities that are good for the environment. Come back. I work for the Air Pollution Control District in my day job. I'm not representing them today, but we're concerned about air quality in the region. We're concerned about greenhouse gas emissions in the region. We have to think hard about what we're going to do and how we're going to get around in the future. I like electric cars. I drive an electric car. I think we're going to have to do more than that, and so I want to talk about that. We also have to make sure the communities are healthy, where you could get that 30 minutes of exercise a day that you need to stay healthy as an individual. To get that activity, and we have to build communities that are nice, that people want to live in, that draws talent from around the country to come live in San Diego because they want to live here about their quality of life. So, how are we going to do that? Now we can go. We're going to have to think smarter and more creatively. We're going to have to overcome this fear of change. A lot of what I hear when I go out in communities and talk to people is that people like things the way they are now. That's not going to happen. We can't keep things the way they are now. Even if we do nothing, we won't be able to keep things the way they are now. Things are going to change with or without us. I want to share a really good quote with you that was in the UT Vet last year. You can't make progress if you don't make changes. And the woman who said that was an 81-year-old resident of Casa de Campañas in Rancho Bernardo. She understood the value of making change. I think we need more people who understand the value of making change. So, what are we going to change? We're going to change so that we're going to bike some more. Why? Because it's good for our physical and mental health, because it's inexpensive, because it offers us opportunities to connect with our neighborhood, because it reduces those transportation emissions that I was talking about for air quality. It helps reduce traffic congestion, does not require gasoline, which is going to be important soon, and it's good for business. So, We need to get away from this idea that it's only cars versus bikes versus transit. When we create an integrated transportation system, it works better for everyone. Our neighborhoods are better, we're better, our transportation is better. So we need to think about how do we incorporate everyone in that future. So that future is going to create different modes. Not everybody is going to, I know it kills me to say it, but not everyone is going to bike all the time for everything. I realize this. It's okay. I didn't bike here today. But it is a good option for some trips, and I think that's what we need to talk about, is giving people options for, if you need a car to haul a mattress, you should be able to use your car to haul a mattress. If you want to go shopping with your bicycle, you should be able to go shopping with your bicycle safely and easily in your community. If you want to take transit, you should be able to do that. We should offer people those options. So, the other thing that's happening is people have a lot of reasons they don't want to bike, and we're looking toward technology to help our future here. Electric bikes solve a lot of the issues that people are concerned about. I'm like, it's too far for me to ride, it's too hot, that hill is too big. That hill is too big. That's going to be hard to ride up. With an electric bike, it's not as hard. With an electric bike, you still have the advantage of being able to get some exercise, but also tackle the challenges of your commute. And I think that in the future, we're going to be seeing a lot more electric bikes. The price of those is coming down, the availability is going up. We're seeing a lot more electric bikes on the road. The California legislature has finally realized that electric bikes are here to stay and passed legislation last year, the year before, that talked about how are we going to deal with these electric bikes. And so they've thought about it. I think you're going to be seeing more and more of those, and I encourage you to try that. If you haven't tried riding an electric bike, I would encourage you to do that. They're really fun. Next. The other thing that's going to happen in bike technology is Bikeshare. How many of you have used a Bikeshare bike? Wow, I am impressed with this crowd. Yay! So you know how fun it is. The Bikeshare is coming. If it's not already in your community, it's going to be coming to your community because it provides so many of the advantages of bicycling without the disadvantages of having to deal with a bicycle all the time. I would like to be able to get off the transit onto my bicycle and do that first mile, last mile piece. Why do we care about this? Why are we going to have to do something different in the future? San Diego has a very ambitious climate action plan. They've set some targets for the city in transit priority areas, which is basically within half a mile of a major transit center or transit line. We're going to get 6% of the people commuting by bicycle by 2020. We're going to get 18% of people commuting by bike by 2035 in those transit priority areas. Those are the targets for the climate action plan. Those are very ambitious targets. We're looking at percentages now anywhere from 2 to 4%, depending on where people are. Coronado's better. City of San Diego's got a ways to go. Those are some pretty ambitious targets. How are we going to do that? I know that Ray is going to talk about transit hubs. Bicycles can help you do that first mile, last mile to incorporate your trip. You don't have to do only bicycling, only transit, or only walking, or only driving. You can combine those modes, and transit hubs offer us the opportunity to do that. Bicycling is a very good way to get from home to hub or hub to work. The other thing that we need to do, and this is going to be the hard part, I think, is creating a system where we're going to be able to ride all those electric bikes and Bikeshare bikes all over town. What we find is that unless you have a protected and connected bikeway system, people won't ride. If there's a gap in the system, it's going to be very difficult for people to choose bicycling. Even if 90% of your trip is wonderful, the 10% that is scary is going to be enough to stop you from making that bicycle trip. We have to make sure 100% of the ride is good and not that 10% that's scary. That's expensive, that's difficult. It requires making some tough choices about creating space for bicycling instead of the space that we're using now, perhaps for parking or for auto travel lanes. I'm hoping technology is going to help us, that these autonomous cars are going to make some space for us. I'll be curious to see what they say about that. Next slide, please. But what we do know is when you do create those facilities, people will ride. It happens again and again in city after city. When people install protected, safe bikeways, people get on their bikes and they ride to where they need to go. And that's what we need to do in San Diego County as well. we're starting to do that. Yay, Sandbag, thank you for these projects in the San Diego Regional Early Action Plan, that there is a vision of creating these facilities, and you are going to be seeing more and more of these facilities in the future. I hope it's the near future. It's important that we get some of this stuff on the ground so that people can see it and feel it and touch it and ride it and know that that's what they're going to do. Next slide. The other thing that's going to happen in the future is that the face of bicycling is going to change. This is what most people think of when they think of bicycling. This is what I hope people will start to think of when they think about bicycling. It's not bicyclists, it's people on bikes. And that's the important part that we need to do. And what that means is that as we get older, we see more as we get older. I don't know about you guys, I'm getting a little older. I'm starting to get further down the chart. But what we're seeing is that people, as they age, still continue to ride and ride more than they did as younger people. And so we want to encourage that trend. We also want to encourage people of color to be riding bicycles. It's traditionally been a white male sport. We need to get regular people, all different color people, to be riding, and we're seeing that happen again as you create those protected bike networks. People ride, all people ride, not just really fit people in spandex. We also see a lot more women riding. When you create those facilities that feel safe, women will ride, but you need to create facilities that make them feel safe. So, the future is creating a transportation system that works for everyone. Better infrastructure, new kinds of bikes, more different people riding. When we create that, that's what we're going to have in the future. So I hope that starts off our discussion. That's my contact information, but you guys can have that.